It is very, very difficult to do. But the reality is, it is a state of mind. And, you know, what I always like to tell people is, it's like a tennis ball. Once you hit ground, you've got to come right back up.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? So that's one of the questions. And one of the people we interviewed in the book, Pat, he said he'd pull out his resume and he'd review, what are all these great things that I've accomplished in my career?
Right.
You know, so start focusing on all of those great things that you've done, all of those things that gave you energy, those moments in your career that were the highlights. And when you start to focus on the positive, then you just naturally give yourself the energy and the the determination and the persistence to continue on.
So if you feel negative, but you force yourself to focus on positives, that can actually translate into feeling positive? Just do it and you become it?
Yeah, and that's one strategy. And I mean, the other strategy is to get out of the house.
Right.
Be around people. And be around people who are going to support you and be optimistic. You know, it's okay too to be sometimes around people who are in the same shoes as you are, and you know, you kind of cry together. But don't stay there. You know, it's okay to find someone who can share empathy with you, but you need to move forward and focus always on where am I going and moving forward.
Now, in terms of the things not to do, one of the people that you interviewed for your book referred to it as unemployment syndrome in his particular case.
Yes.
Just describe what that means. What was he talking
Well,
about?
he was the most candid, and we thank him greatly for doing that, because he talked about the real emotional roller coaster he went through. He'd be energized and he'd go out and he'd do all the things he needed to do, and he'd plan and he'd redo his resume and change his strategy, and then he didn't get much response, and then within 2 weeks or 3 weeks he was back lying on the couch in the afternoon with no energy even to do something around the house or even to enjoy himself. He just lay there, and then he'd talk to himself and say, I can't do this, I can't keep at this. And he knew going in that this could happen, and sure enough, he found himself there. So that's another way to beat himself up.
Right.
But then he would say, "Okay, I'm going to do it again," and then it wouldn't work out. And then up and down, up and down, up and down. And he and some of the others, many of the others, talked about the kinds of supports that they had. In his case, his wife was really important, and she was very supportive and gave him a kick in the rear end when he needed to do that.
Right.
So we talk about the 3 F's, and the family, friends, and faith. And
right.
one of the people you interviewed on the street there talked about the faith piece. But family is really important, and your immediate family, and being able to talk to your family, let them know what's going on. Don't get caught in the I don't want to burden them with this.
Very easy to do, and I think Canadians, being the stoic crowd that they are, probably fall into that trap more often than any other. You think, I've got problems, the worst thing I can do is be some moaning Minnie who wanders around telling other people about their problems. So I'm going to keep a stiff upper lip, part of our heritage, I guess, and I'm just going to keep that inside. What's wrong with that?
Well, certainly what we heard from the couples we interviewed and other people talking about their spouses is that it's a source of misunderstanding.
Sure.
That people don't understand what's going on inside of you, and they may not have experienced a layoff, so they really don't know what it's like. They don't know what it's like to be frustrated to try to send out one resume and application after another and get nowhere. So part of what you need to do is to not tiptoe around each other. One of the women in the book talked about we are not lepers. We are unemployed. So don't let people tiptoe around you. That's one thing. Choose your friends who are going to be supportive, not people who said, well, go take any job you can get.
Right.
Well, if you're desperate, you may have to do that. But at the same time, if you're going for something that matters to you, stay with that and surround yourself with positive people. And the faith piece is anything from being very positive about yourself and that you have something to do,
right.
and I'll get through this, or will get through this, as some of the families talked up through faith in God, faith in the universe, faith in whatever. That faith was extremely important, and in a lot of ways people would say, you know, those consequences, or what's the word I'm trying to think of? There are no accidents, you know, that kind of thing. Those it really is that those coincidences, thank you, that's the word I was trying to get, that they happen, and those are some of those opportunities that come along. See, I knew it would work out.
So under what circumstances should we be taking this opportunity to think positively, think outside the box, say to oneself, should there be a paradigm shift? Have I been barking up the wrong tree? Is there a better tree to be barking up? Should we automatically take a layoff as being an excuse or a reason to take some time off, think about who we are, what we want, and how to get it? Or should some people just get right back on the horse?
Yeah, I think that's an individual answer. But I think anytime there is a layoff, I think in most of the circumstances, people do take that opportunity to reflect. Because what's happening when you're laid off is you're thrown outside your comfort zone. And so now you're in this zone of, now what am I going to do? And it is the time, you know, to reflect on what am I going to do next. And for some people, like Paul said, you know, I really liked what I was doing, and what I was doing was what I did well. And I think, you know, when we go back to high tech just for a moment, that's what was so difficult for a lot of the folks, because they loved what they were doing.
Right.
And they knew what they wanted to do. They wanted to do what they were doing. And it was a difficult thing because in their situation, the industry left them.
Is there any danger, though, when you're leaving a job with a lot of emotions, some of them negative, a lot of vulnerability? Are there some people who are going to perhaps go winging off in another direction because they feel that they have been spurned by their former, you know, suitor, and they want to get away from it?
So what can happen is you may see this as the opportunity to try something different, and in trying something different, you'll learn, is this really what I want, or is this not what I want? See, until you try, life is all about experiences, and until you actually try something, you don't know. Right? So we have a situation where the person went off and tried to do sales and tried to be a salesperson, and today is working in the field that he worked in before.
Right.
You know, he attempted to do sales and loves his work.
On the other hand, you've got another guy who used to work in high tech, and now he runs a winemaking business, so it can go either way.
Exactly.
Yep. We have Richard on the line, and it's either Richard or Richard, but I'll know when I hear your voice. Richard?
Yes, sir, it is.
Hi, Richard. How are you doing tonight?
Too bad yourself.
Oh, just fantastic. What's your take on bouncing back from a job loss, Richard?
Well, I've been through that quite a bit when I was younger.
I'm sorry?
I was through that quite a bit when I was younger.
Right.
I guess in those days was big families, and we had no choice. The father used to say, "Do like me, work, take anything like." And sometime I regret taking jobs that was too hard for my health, first of all.
Right.
But it was so strict those days that you had no choice. Get a job or you're going to be thrown out of the house.
Right.
So not everybody got a chance to go to high school or college, whatever, because we were a poor family, so we had to take anything, just take the job, that's it.
Sure.
But down the road, it did affect, especially if you get married, and sometimes, or even if you go back to school and you'll take jobs, sometimes you're being told sometimes you're overqualified with your diplomas, what you're doing here, you should be in my place. Oh no, I don't have nothing for you. Or you get hired, and then 3 months down the road, the boss calls you in his office, tells you, well, I heard you got an artificial leg, I'm going to have to let you go. You're a very, very good employee. We're very satisfied with you, but honestly, I have to tell you this, I have to let you go. This turns you off.
Now, Richard, was that your personal experience?
Come on. Thank God I had a strong-minded person, but it's just you got to keep pushing. And the best thing I tell to everybody tonight, be yourself, be honest, and tell is like, don't put yourself too much in the application. Do not tell lies, it's not worth it. Get a boss that will listen to you, be yourself, and tell it like it is. If they don't like you that way, let's say I'm just trying to be honest. I don't want to put myself over